gonna be just like senior year, except for funner.
Hey guys, I'm Kendra.
Hi, I'm Mercedes, and this week we're talking about a movie celebrating its 15th anniversary this month, Knocked Up.
Knocked Up. I'm so excited. But
Yes.
of course, Mercedes, before we start, we have to talk about our celebrity crush of the week. Who are you crushing on this week?
Oh my goodness, Kendra. So no surprise here. Harry Styles released his new album, Harry's House, a couple weeks ago. So he is my crush. It is so good. I'm so happy for him. And I'm just so happy that every new song he releases, I love. Daylight on the album is my favorite one. I want to live inside of it. I like twirl down the street listening to it. It's just, I'm just so happy. It's like the most cohesive album he's made. And
Yeah.
I love the growth.
Okay, Mercedes, you have to tell us and be honest. How many times have you listened to it since it's come out?
I don't even know. It came out the day of my 2 years late belated graduation for my master's. So
Mhm.
that whole morning I was listening to it, and like the whole time I was in New York, I was just listening to it and skipping down the street.
Well, also congrats on that, Mercedes. You graduated your master's. Look at you, little boss lady. I see you.
Class of 2020 finally had a ceremony. It's fun to celebrate.
2 years later. No, you look
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful. Okay, so I was flipping through the channels as I do, and I was watching Deepwater Horizon, and Dylan O'Brien just has like such a small role in it, but I just love him. I
Yes.
feel like I went on a DOB kick, and I'm just like I've seen all of his movies, and I have to tell you, I feel like I'm really good at telling when actors are about to pop off because when I saw him in Teen Wolf, I was like, he's talented. He has
Kyle
a
Stilinski.
Style Stilinski, and look at him now. Like he's like number one heartthrob in all movies. So
Keep an eye out for him in LA because he tweeted recently that he's in his slut era. So
I thought he lives in New York though.
does he? I think he was filming there. I don't know if he lives there.
Okay, I saw a TikTok about how he went to the post office and he didn't know how to mail something, so he asked this girl to help him, and this was in New York City, and she took a picture of him, and it was Dylan O'Brien, and so
That's so cute.
it's so cute. I know, how do you not know how to mail something? He's so adorable.
That's honestly terrifying, but it's cute.
Exactly. All right, guys, we're going to move over to TLDR. Mercedes and I just like to summarize the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. Warning, there are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen Knocked Up, you can watch it on TBS, TNT, or you can rent it on Amazon. So when TV producer / personality Allison, played by Katherine Heigl, gets a promotion, she decides to celebrate with her sister, played by Leslie Mann, by going to a club. There, she just happens to meet Ben, played by Seth Rogen, for lack of a better word, is a man-child. While Allison is very career-oriented and a type A personality, Ben just struggles to take life seriously or really commit to anything. Preferring to get high and just mess around all day with his less than favorable roommates, Ben and Allison could not be more different. But of course, when you throw alcohol into the mix, all bets are off. So Allison and Ben end up sleeping together, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we get our beloved title from. As you
Yep.
suspected, Allison becomes pregnant, and after a ton of back and forth with each other and friends and family, Allison decides to keep the baby, and Ben decides to stay around to support her and the baby, much to the chagrin of Allison's sister, whom she lives with, along with her husband Pete, played by Paul Rudd, the ever-loving Paul Rudd. Over the course of Allison's pregnancy, you see both her and Ben start to fall in love with each other. In true rom-com fashion, of course, reality hits when Allison actually realizes that Ben is just not serious enough. After some time apart, some reflection, and lots of weed and bad advice, Ben ends up being there for Allison in the end when they have their baby. Let the co-parenting begin.
Yes.
This is a 2007 film written and directed by the one and only Judd Apatow. And if you do not know the GOAT of comedy, I literally can't help you. I'm like not even going to bother saying his movies because everyone walking this planet should know Judd Apatow.
By now, yeah.
By now, exactly. But there's just like so much about this movie that I loved. I think the first thing is that this whole relationship is actually based off of Judd and Leslie Mann's marriage and life because they're actually married in real life. Yeah. And like many of the scenes in large part are based off of like their experience with their first kid, Maude Apatow, who we all know from Euphoria. now,
Yeah.
but are also like the two kids in the movie are their kids too. And I just think that's so
I love that.
I do too.
Apatow is so good at just like keeping his crew together, like even from like Freaks and Geeks and beyond, like he always has his close friends and his family just like filling his roles. And I appreciate that because it's like Adam Sandler, like all his close ones are getting a check, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny too because like all the characters of Ben's roommates, like they all use their real first names. So you have Martin Starr, Jason Segel, Jay
Yeah.
Baruchel, Jonah Hill. This whole comedy troupe is my favorite. There's not a single movie that these guys have done that I have not laughed my butt off of. Like so good. Also, I found that funny that this was Seth Rogen's first leading role. Like he was super young in this, and it's funny because I think
so young.
yeah, I feel like Seth Rogen was born like 37.
Yeah, because even in the movie when they say he's 23, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, it's not 23.
Yeah.
He's never been 23.
And it's like I can't imagine Seth Rogen like when his voice finally drops, like who's saying you're 16?
Even in Freaks and Geeks, I'm like, you are not a teenager.
Yeah.
This is a lie.
It's so funny. Okay, last fun fact. The club that Ben and Allison be in is actually called Plan B, and it's a real
Oh my
club.
God.
And that's just foreshadowing what's to come.
Oh, I love that. The symbolism.
The symbolism, exactly. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to Time Capsule Mercedes, and I just like to recall where we were when this movie came out. What was this, like 10, oh my God, 15 years ago? I'm bad with math. 15 years ago this movie came out. What were you doing?
Okay, so like I have no memory of the first time I saw this movie. I
Yep.
definitely know it wasn't in theaters. I was 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely saw it on the E Network, and which censors out so many scenes.
Yeah.
So all the movies that I've seen on the E Network, I'll watch them like when they're streaming, like in recent years now, and I'm like, what? I don't remember this.
Yeah.
And there's so many parts that I'm like, I've never seen this part. And I think that definitely happened with this movie when I rewatched it a couple years ago too. And now I've seen it so many times, just like on TV, streaming, whatever.
Yep.
And it's one of those that I've just seen a ton.
Exactly. Everyone knows I like to talk about my high school experiences. All these movies that we do, Mercedes, they take place.
I never get to talk about my high school experience.
I know.
They're always within. Wait, there's been like one.
What years were you in high school?
I think I graduated in 2014. So like I think I guess I started that fall in freshman year of 2010. Yeah.
Okay.
2010.
Okay. So I was 2006 to 2010. That was my high school career. So
okay, so you were a senior when I was in 8th grade.
Are we really that far apart? I feel like
just 4. It sounds like a lot when you like in high school years. Yeah.
Yeah, high school years it's a lot. Not to bring the mood down, but I've talked about how I had a really tough time in high school, just with kids bullying and being mean. But I just remember this movie came out the summer after my freshman year, which was just a particularly hard time for me. I had this friend. She had such a big mouth. She literally knew, she was like Gretchen Wieners, just was in everyone's business, knew everything about everyone. And I remember she called me, and this was literally right after classes ended, so we were out for the summer. And she just sat me down on the phone for like 45 minutes, which was a long time.
That is a long call.
Or 15. And she just told me the crap that everyone talked about me the entire year. Like,
what? Why would she ever do that?
Beginning, she was just like, she was, it was always something the guys are like, I just want you to know. I just thought you should know,
Absolutely not. No, I hate people like that. They're just like, I just want you to know that someone was talking shit about you.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Actually, you didn't have to tell me at all.
But it still stays with me, right? That conversation still stays
totally.
with me. And like, I definitely didn't see this in theaters because it was rated R. And I remember because this came out before 8 Mile. And 8 Mile was the first rated R movie that I didn't get to see, but my sister saw it with my parents.
Oh my God.
She had to go with my mom. And it was just like, I wasn't old enough to watch rated R movies yet, but I definitely saw this before college. So I think like you, I watched it. It was streaming on TV and all of the like sexual parts were censored out. So it was fine.
Right.
It was fine. I feel like, okay, so if I was in freshman year, then what were you, like in 5th grade?
I had just finished 5th grade because this came out June 1st,
Okay.
2007. So I was 11. I just finished 5th grade the summer before I started middle school.
Hmm.
And it was gonna be, like, my first time at a different school where my parents weren't teaching, and my brothers were just born. They were born in March 2007, so the same age as this movie, which is psychotic. It's so great. That's how I know the anniversary of this movie. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 15." And, yes, they were a couple months old. I was definitely just playing soccer and basketball and dancing and swim team and tennis. I was busy, and then I was just obsessed with Zac Efron because the High School Musical 2 came out in August 2007. So I was gearing up to it that whole summer. I was like,
Yes.
"I'm ready." And you know, on
Yes.
Disney Channel, when they're showing all the summer movies and you get to vote
Mhm.
online, that was, like,
Yes.
my favorite thing. Yeah.
Did you actually go and vote online? I don't think I ever did.
I would go online with my dad, and we'd, like, pick it together.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh gosh, freshman year. It's just so funny because I just feel like I feel like that summer I just tried to stop caring so much about what people thought about me after that conversation.
That's
And I
so early on to, like, have that. I don't know, I feel like that's so young to be like, "I'm gonna, like, not care about what people think," which is
oh,
so
it didn't work. It didn't work. I was like, I'm gonna try. And then like it didn't work. I went right back to school in September. It was like, oh my God, I'm all self-conscious.
yeah, that's still me sometimes now.
Yeah. I feel like I had a really big crush. Oh my gosh. Why am I just out blanking on his name? Lucas Till? Lucas Till. Lucas Till.
What was
He's
he
like
in?
I think you would know him from You Belong With Me, the Taylor Swift
Oh my gosh,
music
was he in
video.
the Hannah Montana movie?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes. Yes, I know him.
I can't remember. I think I had a crush on him during that time.
It's a good crush.
Oh my gosh, he was so cute, right?
Yeah.
Lucas Till, slide into my DMs at Kenta Hollywood.
Yeah,
Hello.
hit Kendra up. Oh my god.
Y'all, your girl is painstakingly single out here. Please, someone slide in my DMs. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to the Rom-Com Hall of Fame. But of course, Mercedes, we have to talk about what does not work in this movie. Tell me what some of your roasts are.
So I have some long ones, but they're
Mhm.
major. So the
Okay.
first one, the sexism, first and foremost. This
Mhm.
movie was a large factor in the Katherine Heigl blacklisting in Hollywood. We touched on this before in the 27 Dresses episode that in 2008 she made comments critiquing this character and her Grey's Anatomy character. And these specific comments were also made by critics too, just about how she just played this unpleasant, unfunny woman in this movie about her pregnancy.
Mhm.
And the men are all depicted as like these goofy, childlike adults. They are the comic relief when she's just like pregnant and inconsistent with her character. You don't really know if she wants to have this baby truly, if she's like ready for this. Like, you never get her internal monologue at all or her point of
Mhm.
view.
Mhm.
And it's just frustrating because her comments were valid. Like, she said this is kind of sexist.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I think this is pretty blatant. Seeing women as miserable and humorless, and even Leslie Mann, who's so hilarious in this movie, especially compared to Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, who were like truly the comic relief. Like, her comedic timing kind of goes under the radar a little bit.
Mhm.
And I don't know, you even get more substance from, like, all the stoner crew, you know, like, all his roommates. You get more into their life than you do Allison at all. Like, by the end, you don't really know Allison when this is a story about her journey with this baby. Like, we should know everything about her.
Mhm.
So that's annoying to me. What do you have to say?
I hear you. Gosh, there is this. I actually really kind of regret watching this video on TikTok now because I cannot get it out of
Oh.
my head. I heard this saying on TikTok that I feel like I cannot unhear now. It is said if a woman's first child is a girl, she had some maturing to do. If it's a boy, she needed to know the true meaning of love. And now every single one of my friends or people that I know that have girls, I'm like, yeah, you had some maturing to do. And I see that a bit in Allison's character of just like her needing to like have control or like having things like a certain way because obviously that's not what life is about. It's just so interesting, that concept of like nothing will would mature a woman faster than raising a mini version of herself. And I just think of like all of my friends who have had boys, like they've all gone through some stuff, right? But that have made them like very strong individuals and now they need to know the true meaning of love. And I feel like it's just kind of blown my mind. I hear 100% what you're saying about Allison. And I guess, because I'm watching this movie and I'm laughing the whole time, and my core reason for watching this movie is because I like the whole Apatow crew. I guess I've kind of always overlooked the perceived sexism of the women that are portrayed in this movie. And it's very interesting too because it's a movie about pregnancy that has a lot of commentary and opinions of men. And obviously right now that's a sensitive time because in the United States, if we have any listeners overseas, like we
Yeah.
overturned Roe versus Wade. and it's just been a really hard
Or
time.
it was leaked that they're going to that
Yeah,
they're planning, like, the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
yeah.
and it's a hard time right now. Also,
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like this movie was also foreshadowing something. But
totally.
yeah, I feel like I can't get that out of my head, and now whenever I watch, like, I meet someone or watch a movie, I just think of like, what is it that you have to mature about?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I
I
had
wish I
never
could.
heard anything like that before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, like, if you took the time to like look back on all the people you know, what you think it would be. Anyways, it's just been a common theme in my life.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna think about that
yeah,
for a
think about
little while.
it.
Another thing, like you said, this timing of this recording also kind of goes along with the current events of Roe versus Wade right now.
hmm
And I recently read an article that came out in May from The Atlantic by Megan Garber, where she used this movie and its 15-year anniversary to examine the country's relationship with abortion and reproductive health. And
Oh.
I urge everyone to read it. It's really good. I have a media studies background, so I love any article or essay that blends pop culture and political criticism in a way that makes it a lot more digestible. And it's a really good case study, too. I thought it would just be like really interesting to bring up since we're talking about this movie on its 15th anniversary. So, this article explains how surprisingly conservative this storyline is
Mm.
because of the fact that we don't see Allison's point of view that I mentioned of her own decision. We hear everybody else, her parents, his family, friends, everybody talk about what she should do with her body, but we never see her inner monologue. All we do see is the pain and struggle she endures during the pregnancy journey, and whether that be like stress from like pregnancy and stress from like her relationship, all of those
Mhm.
things. And this is an R-rated raunch alt comedy Apatow movie about an unplanned unwanted pregnancy really at the beginning, and they don't even utter the words abortion really. The closest they get is schmushmortion,
Yeah.
which is nuts to me because this is a movie that, like, I don't know, Apatow pushes the like envelope a lot with his comedy, and I think we expect that. But since they don't even say the word abortion correctly, even they use it as like some hidden thing, it emphasizes the shame within the word,
Mm,
and I think that's really interesting because that's kind of the same way that it's talked about in the political sphere. You never hear the word abortion, you hear like bodily autonomy and all
mm,
these other words that are like supposed to imply that. So that's really what Garber talks about. And then there's this quote that I really liked at the end where she says, "As Allison becomes a mother, will Ben be able to become a father? These are the questions that animate the movie. Allison's role along the way is blandly maternal. By giving birth to this baby, Knocked Up implies she is helping Ben, the man child, become a man."
mm.
So I don't know. It's such a good article. I don't do it justice. So please read it if you have the time. It's so good.
Absolutely. You know, Mercedes, you're so insightful when you think of things like this, and I always feel lame going after you because
No,
I think,
no,
but I think
no.
that's why we work because you think about it so in depth, and I think about it more on the surface level. So I feel like we attack it from both sides.
I don't think
Almost.
either of us think about it from the surface level. I think we both just have such different avenues of analyzing these movies, which is what
Mhm.
makes it work, you know? And like, I never listen to your points being like, oh, that's nothing compared to mine. No, like, you're always sharing information from a different point of view that I wouldn't have thought of before on my own.
Yeah, I definitely think about it also from a very personal point of view because like
Yeah,
there's a line where Pete says, once you have kids, all your hopes and dreams go out the window. And I just feel like this is a really negative mentality that we as millennials have adapted that I don't personally subscribe to. I don't think my life is going to be over once I have kids. There's a part of me actually that feels like a part of me has not been awakened yet because I don't have kids. And like
yeah,
when I become a mother, like that part is going to be awakened. Like that's something I'm looking forward to in my life. But I
totally.
understand things get more difficult. But I think too, you remember that article where the Pope came out and said he wished like our generation stopped having pets and started having kids?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
remember that? Yeah, I feel like it's this mentality of like, my life is going to be over. I can't have happiness. I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm gonna have kids. Kids make things a bit more difficult, but they don't make things impossible. I just don't like that mentality. I want to throw it out the window.
No, I don't like that either, especially I think we see most of those comments from men in media,
Mhm,
especially. Like that's definitely and that's the same comment of like, "Oh yeah, once you get married, life is over." Like all these
mhm.
things that are like supposed to be really important special things
Yeah.
to individuals.
Mhm.
And if you want to do it and partake and like go down that road, then like you should love it, you
Mhm.
know?
Exactly. I used to subscribe to the magazines Teen People and 17.
Oh, same.
Growing up. Yeah. So I read so many articles in there. And so Debbie makes a comment that Ben and Allison's kids are going to have bad genes because Ben is overweight.
Yeah.
And I just remember reading in that article that like men subconsciously will not date women based off of how they think they're going to look in the future, right? And I remember that moment thinking like, oh gosh, I would never want to bring a guy home to my mother because, my mother is overweight. And I just always remember thinking I don't want a guy to not. This is so stupid. Like, honestly, what are those magazines teaching us in the first place?
Yeah, why did they ever and those are the things that stick with you when you're really young. You're like, "Oh, I need to believe this. This is
Mhm.
fact." And
Exactly.
then you think about it later and you're like, "Why did this stick with me at all?"
Yeah, it's so
Ugh.
impressionable, especially at that age, right? Like, at the age I
Yeah.
was reading it, I was consuming information. And so it's something that's
Mhm.
always in the back of my head of, men will not date you if they think you're going to look a certain way when you are a certain age. And I'm like, that's BS. Like, obviously now as an adult,
Yeah.
like that's BS. But like when I was a kid, I was like, oh my God.
There was this thing on TikTok that came up a few months ago that my friends and I had like a lot of discussions about how men don't choose to marry the woman that they like really love. They choose the woman that they think it's like the right time to be
Mhm.
married. That's when they
Yep.
choose. And that to me is just like that sits in my brain every day. I'm like, that is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Did
Crazy.
you see the thread on Twitter of like all the men responding to that prompt and saying,
Yes,
yeah,
that's so embarrassing. God, it's pathetic. They're
yeah,
just like, "I have a long lost love." I'm like, "I'm sorry, that is such loser behavior." God,
yeah.
get it together.
I know, and it just makes me sad too. I think just being older, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be married quickly because I don't want to
Mhm.
be someone's second choice. I don't want to be someone's like, oh, I settled for this person because the person I actually loved, I wasn't ready to get married, but now that I'm ready to get
Right.
married and you're in front of me, let's just get married. Like I don't want
Ugh.
that. It's very stressful.
But you're such a lover of love that I don't ever
Mhm.
think that you would fall under, like, a spell like that.
I hope not, because sometimes like guys can be so thwarting with their emotions. Like
It's
you,
true.
you never know. You never know. I will say that the last thing about the last rose I have for this movie is Adam Scott plays the male nurse that is like helping
Mhm.
Allison, and he like tells her to tone it down because she's freaking out all the other moms that are about to
Oh
give
my
birth
god.
by screaming, and I was like, you try pushing a 8-pound baby through a 10-centimeter dilated
Yeah.
canal and tell me that that does not hurt.
Exactly, and here's this control freak woman. Her doctor isn't there. I would be
Mhm.
panicking.
Yes,
I'd be the
exactly.
worst patient.
It is the worst. It is the worst. Good insight, Mercedes. I like talking about this one with you. Good insight. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to quotability. Oh gosh, there are so many things in here that are just iconic. So many lines in this movie are my favorite, and I think they're hilarious, but they're also inappropriate, and I would not be caught dead repeating them myself. But I always laugh at Craig Robinson, who plays the bouncer at the
Oh,
club,
yes.
and he's like,
I'm only allowed to let in 5% black people. He said that, 5%. That means if it's 25 people here, I get to let in 1.25 black people. So I gotta hope it's a black midget in the crowd.
He's so good when he's just like, "Hey, I'm not letting you in because you're old."
I love it. What is yours, Mercedes?
Mine is Maud Apatow's legendary explanation of where babies come from, where she's like,
Well, I think a stork, he drops it down, and then a hole goes in your body, and there's blood everywhere coming out of your head, and then you push your belly button, and then your butt falls off, and then you hold your butt, and you have to dig, and you find a little baby.
and you're like, "Excuse me?" And they're all just staring at her, and she's just so proud. And that's how you knew she was going to be great.
Yeah, I wonder if that was scripted or if she actually thought like her dad was just like, "Sweetie, tell us where you think babies come from," and then he just like started recording.
Honestly, she was so young. It may have just been ad lib.
Yeah, I know, seriously. All right, Mercedes, if this movie popped up on your Tinder feed, are you swiping left or are you swiping right?
So I don't know. I've seen this movie a lot, and while it does make me laugh, I think instead of swiping, I would just exit the app,
Yep,
and
that's
like
what I
leave
do.
it for later. I've rewatched this so many times and I laugh and I enjoy myself, but I also understand that the flaws in it are just so blatant. And as
Yeah.
I get older, I think I just want more from this movie. And it can't obviously provide me with that because it's
Mhm.
from 15 years ago. And I think that's the thing with a lot of these movies. Like some of them just don't age with you.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
okay too.
And I think that's a good sign though, because it shows that you are changing with the times
Yeah,
and you are maturing on your own. And it's funny how
totally.
you can measure that with movies. So,
I know,
uh,
I love that.
yeah, I love that too. So, guiltily, I am swiping right. As I said, I cannot even express this enough to you. I love the whole Apatow crew. Every movie, like any of them have been in that I've seen, like even Jay Baruchel, like saying doing the voice of Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, and 3. I love.
Oh.
Those are some of my favorite movies. I just think these guys are some of the funniest people walking the planet, and I just feel very honored to be alive during the time that they are in their glory. I
That's
also
so
felt
sweet.
I like if and any of them like Seth Rogen, Jay, Jonah Hill, Craig, if I can meet any of them. I met Craig Robinson
Love.
actually, and it was
Ooh,
I did. I met him
I
at this
love
like
Jonah.
yeah, Jonah's
Jonah.
Jonah's great, and I love his range too as an actor. Like he's not just comedy, like he
Yeah.
can do Moneyball and it's like
Mhm.
Wolf of Wall Street. I also felt like with the personal aspect that Judd Apatow included in this film, it was just very innovative. It was an innovative way to approach comedy in a sense. Like to be able to reflect on your life during such pivotal times and find the comedy in it, that requires, in my opinion, like a lot of self-awareness. And it's something that I really appreciate as a viewer. So
Yeah.
I'm swiping right on this one.
Yes.
All right, guys, time for couples therapy. Mercedes and I, because we are pros, we like to just give advice on to the people on how they can improve their relationship. And I have some thoughts. I got some thoughts.
Same.
Ben just definitely needs to grow up and take responsibility. Again, it blows my mind that he's meant to be 23 in this movie. Obviously, when I was 23,
Crazy.
like I was working, I was like going out. I was just being a young 20-year-old. And it must be hard to have a baby at that time. Like I have no idea how he plans on supporting himself, getting a job since he's in the country illegally. And I just
Yeah.
have so many questions. Unfortunately, some of the things Ben needs to work on just won't be solved by maturing. Like there are legal
Mhm.
issues here. Like Ben needs a lawyer. Ben, get a lawyer. Like-
Yeah. Oh my God. He stresses me out so much. And there's just nothing endearing to me about these adult, child, forever kid type
Yup.
of men.
Yeah.
I'm never going to find it cute. I'm never going to find, like, yeah, it's comical for a second,
Mhm.
but I just, like, if you don't have your life together, and I understand being 23, you don't have your life together, but you also have a baby on the way.
Yeah.
So get it together.
Yeah, you're like
Like, yeah, pick it up fast. And like being goofy and being irresponsible or unreliable or just like not synonymous, like you can be silly and
Mhm.
also be responsible. I think that there's a huge problem with like him and his friends in this movie where they're like, if you grow up, you have to leave all the fun behind.
Mhm.
And I just hate that narrative. I don't know, it sucks the fun out of life.
I almost feel like Pete was the adult version of Ben. Pete
Yeah.
is who Ben becomes if he decides to mature and get his life together. And like that scares him because he sees his life and he's like, you must be miserable, dude. Like, I really like that part where Pete is talking about how Debbie just loves him and wants to be around him and he like can't accept
Mhm.
love because that's a huge part of even maturing is like, can you accept the love that's around you? Can you accept the love from the people that are closest to you? Because like love really does change us.
Yeah, and he was like actively avoiding her and
Yeah.
like running from it in any
Mhm.
way that he could.
Yeah.
Like
Be married
it's
to her.
just yeah. I feel bad for Allison
Mhm.
and Debbie, honestly, in this
Yeah.
like era of their marriage too. It's
Mhm.
obviously like this isn't the ideal situation. It's commendable that she does see the good in Ben because
Mhm.
he's not bad. It's just that his immaturity is dangerous.
Mhm.
And I think when you're about to undertake the most important role of responsibility ever of like caring for another human for 24/7 for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
you just need like to be as secure in like wherever space you are and know that you have people around you because it can't just be you alone anyway. Like you need
Yeah.
reliable people.
Yeah.
And to trust somebody like him, I know he like gets better and he like learns a little bit, he gets his own place, but still like there needs to be consistency there. And
Yeah,
it's not
100%.
there.
And I feel like for Allison, this is so hard because being pregnant is incredibly stressful. Allison is just such a type A personality. She works hard, she's very motivated and driven and she likes control. And I think in a partnership it requires a lot of compromise, and I hope she learns how to do that. I understand in this capacity it is hard because she is pregnant, it's stressful, her body is changing, her hormones are all over the place. But if her and Ben want to make it work long term, compromise is required. And so I hope that that's
Definitely.
a place she's able to reach. Okay, so I'm very curious what you think their love language is, because when we talk about rom-coms, we often talk that acts of service is a big one, and it's also like the driving and motivating factor in pushing the story forward in a rom-com.
Yeah.
So what do you think their love languages are?
So I think Allison needs acts of service, and she also gives acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben needs words of affirmation. He's so insecure and just needs the verbal reassurance. And he's also just young. I think that also plays a role in it too. And I think he gives quality time. All he does is hang out and like chill. So like he doesn't do anything else.
Yeah. 100% agree. And again, it's so interesting. Every character that we analyze, one of them always has acts of service as a love.
Yeah, I think we've only had like one movie with that acts of service.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
It's very crazy, but it's also very interesting. I love it. I love it. All right. Does this couple last in 5 years? I personally say not for a hot second. Like, I love Seth Rogen. Ben is an interesting character. I do not understand Allison's attraction to Ben whatsoever. I think these two could not be more opposite. It's not even in the cute way of like opposites attract. It's like it almost feels like settled.
Yeah, oh, it completely is. Yeah, I love Seth Rogen. Ben is just, he stresses me out as a character.
As a character.
And like, and for me, I'm like, Allison, get out of there. Like, there's this meme that's a Demi Lovato quote or something where they're like, get a real job, get away, stay away from her. And that's how I feel. That's what I want to tell Ben.
I 100% agree. All right, guys, time for a heartthrob. I want to know, Mercedes, who are you taking home to introduce to your friends and your family?
Okay, I'm saying Pete only because I love Paul Rudd. I don't like Pete as a character, but how can you not like Paul Rudd?
I don't.
I like he's so annoying as Pete, like lying about like going to your little weird fantasy football, fantasy baseball, whatever he's doing. So annoying, but yeah.
I feel like whenever I think of Paul Rudd, I think of a chocolate lab puppy. I don't know why. He has these puppy eyes almost, and I think it's because his hair is dark. He reminds me of a chocolate lab, and they're just so cute and so sweet. And I love. Yeah, okay. P is definitely my heartthrob, but it's mostly because Paul Rudd.
Definitely.
Just I just love him. He's just
It is so funny. It's so funny because I'm always like, don't infantilize these adult men. Like that's always my biggest gripe with this. But then when I see Paul Rudd, I'm like, oh.
It's really hard not to. It is really hard.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started. We got to do Clueless at some point in the future, but don't get
Oh
me started.
my God, I cannot wait till we do Clueless.
Yes. All right, marry, smooch, ghost. Who are you marrying? Who are you smooching? And who are you ghosting?
Okay, between Ben, Pete, and Jason,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd marry Pete, I'd smooch Jason, and I'd ghost Ben.
Mercedes, this is a rare occurrence. I have to agree with you there. I am marrying Pete. I am smooching Jason. I am ghosting Ben.
I love when this happens.
I
Makes me
do
so
too.
happy.
It is rare, but it's always so wonderful when it does.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, listeners, we always love to bring in a pop culture moment. And I just love that Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen were reunited for that Super Bowl commercial. It's just like,
Yeah.
have you seen it? It's the best thing
Mhm.
ever.
It's just comforting to see them together.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Okay, so this was not the only pregnant movie to premiere in 2007.
Mhm.
Juno came out this same year, and
Mm.
it tells a wonderful story about choice and teenage pregnancy. And also, Waitress came out in 2007. So it's just 3 pregnancy movies in 1 year. That's crazy. And it's also the year my brothers were born. So a lot of pregnancy happened. A lot of pregnancy.
Wait, what is
And-
Waitress?
Oh my gosh, Waitress. Well, it's now a musical. I don't know if it's still on, but it's so good. And it's just about this waitress. Yeah, she's in a marriage she doesn't like. And it's all themed, like narrated through the pies she bakes. So like when she's emotional, she makes another pie. And it's so cute. I forget who's in it. But yeah, and then she actually gets pregnant and a lot of stuff going on. It's a good one. Yes, Carrie Russell's in it. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta
But
check it out.
I have a little point about pregnancy movies. Have you ever
Mhm.
noticed that in almost every birth scene in a movie, the woman is screaming while the doctor's like, it's too late for an epidural? Like, why do movies emphasize natural birth so much? Like, that none of them want any of us to have like a comfortable birth experience.
Yup.
It's
100%.
crazy. It's
I
so
never noticed
weird.
that. And it's interesting that you noticed that, but yeah, that is. Oh, and you know what's really interesting too is that there's a lot of like documentaries and commentary coming out about how the medical industry just wants to drug you up when it comes to like having a baby. I've had a lot of friends who've had babies, but there was someone I worked with specifically who told me she did not pay off her kid, like giving birth to her kid until the kid was 4 years old. So
Oh my God.
there is
Nobody talks about any of that. Oh, it's a mess.
exactly. It is such a mess. I also feel okay. So Seth Rogen has started a company called Houseplants that
Yes.
sells weed and home goods. And if that is not the adult version of Ben, I cannot.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Do you follow him on TikTok?
Oh, Seth Rogen?
Yeah.
No, I don't follow celebrities on TikTok, but
No,
I
his is he doesn't like TikTok his face or anything. He just shows the pottery he makes and like all the ashtrays he makes that like inspired his company.
that is how Ben earns an income.
Truly.
He makes ashtrays. All right, listeners, we want to know your thoughts. Do you like this movie? What do you feel like the commentary is? Do you feel like it hits really close to home with what's happening in the United States right now? Make sure to slide into our DMs at MeetCute. Again, I'm Kendra. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ken10Hollywood.
Yes, and I'm Mercedes. You can find me at MercedesGV11 on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And if you're looking for new rom-coms, follow Meet Cute wherever you listen to podcasts and follow Meet Cute on socials everywhere. Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Hi, Meet Cuties. We're so excited to let you know that you can now binge our newest series, Influence, exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. It's Meet Cute's modern adaptation of Jane Austen's Persuasion, and we know you're going to love it.